Now, is it just me, or do we hear more and more people say that the most recent year in gaming is one of the best years in gaming history when only like 2 good games release? I mean, people are calling 2025 to be one of the best years in gaming history just because of the hype surrounding the newest game releases, and the year isn't even halfway done, we're only in May. 2023 was being hailed as a top 3 year in gaming history, and while yeah, fair point, it did have a couple of good games, I still think that a lot of them were overhyped. 2022 was also being glazed because we got 2 mediocre Sony games and Elden Ring. And I mean, compare these game lineups to something like 2010 or 2011. 2010 was, in my opinion, one of the most underrated gaming years, considering we got Red Dead Redemption, God of War 3, Fallout New Vegas, Mass Effect 2, and Black Ops 1 in a single year. And we also got some other bangers like Metro 2033 and Dante's Inferno. 2011 was the year that brought us one of the most influential RPG games ever made in Skyrim, and we also got Dark Souls 1, which is personally one of my favorite games of all time. We also can't forget that Arkham City completely elevated the superhero game genre. Uncharted 3 had some of the best multiplayer for a game which primary focus was the single-player campaign. LA Noire had and still has one of the best atmospheres in gaming, but in my opinion, the best year in gaming history is 2015. Now I know that's a bold statement, considering that 2007 is right there, a year that brought us Super Mario Galaxy, God of War 2, and Uncharted 1, but to me 2015 feels like the last year where gaming studios really wanted the games to be genre-defining and push new standards, taking risks instead of just playing safe and following the most safe and bland gaming trends. And because of the relatively modern hardware, almost all of the AAA releases had both amazing graphics and art design. I mean, Metal Gear Solid 5 is 10 years old, and it's still one of the best looking games of all time, and it still looks amazing. Same thing with Batman Arkham Knight. Black Ops 3 also looks way better than any of the modern COD releases, because its art design is just so much better than anything past Modern Warfare 2019, because everything started to look the exact same. And alongside the fact that the devs actually cared about art direction in 2015, they had relatively modern hardware at their disposal. And the result of all of this is a year that's stacked with some of the best and most groundbreaking AAA games ever made. I mean, instead of there being a lot of games nobody really cares about, like how there's 60 Souls-likes in a year right now, 2015 was stacked with amazing sequels or games that redefined genres. Let's start with my personal favorite game of all time, and that's Bloodborne. One of the most influential games in modern gaming. I mean, it was the first Souls game that really pushed boundaries for the Souls-like subgenre, and it let the genre evolve. I mean, for better or worse, considering that every single Souls-like now needs some inspiration from Bloodborne, because prior to Bloodborne, the only Souls games we had were Demon's Souls, Dark Souls 1, and Dark Souls 2, and those games, while great, were slow and clunky. Bloodborne was the first Souls game that had fast gameplay with combat that encouraged the player to be aggressive. 95% of Souls-likes are encouraging this fast gameplay loop, and Bloodborne's influence can be seen everywhere. And still, 10 years later, Bloodborne aged like fine wine, and I still prefer its combat over any other Souls game. The only problem the game has is that it's locked in 30 FPS. And it's a real shame, considering that this game has some of the best art design, art direction out of any Souls game. In case you want to know more about my thoughts on Bloodborne, I've made a full review and I'll link that in the description. And another game from 2015 I consider to be amazing is Metal Gear Solid 5, The Phantom Pain. Regardless of your thoughts on the game's story and ending, which, by the way, I personally fucking love, you can't deny it has some of the best stealth gameplay ever. The game's missions were all super unique and extremely fun to play through. There is so much freedom given to the player, and you can approach a single mission in a million different ways. You can be super sneaky and eliminate everyone with your silenced weapon while hiding in a box, or you can complete some missions without killing anyone, just purely relying on your stealth. and there is so much to love about this game's gameplay, missions, and overall structure of recruiting soldiers and building your own mother base. And you know how I said that all of the missions in this game are super fun to play through? Well, I lied, since once you actually beat the game, you don't actually beat it. After you defeat the main villain of the game, you think you beat the game, however you didn't, since the ending you got isn't the true ending, and now you have to sacrifice hours of your life trying to complete copy-pasted missions from the start of the game you've already beaten at the start of the game. Except now you have to follow stupid restrictions that kill off some of the player's freedom, like how the game strips you of all of your weapons and all of your buddies. So now you're just basically back on square one, running over the big ass map for hours, and after you repeat the same missions, you're left with an ending that also feels kind of unfinished. And it's sad because I really liked this game. The overall final twist at the end is the part I really liked. However, locking the ending behind pointless missions is something that really kills the enjoyment. Once I actually understood the story, I think it was one of my favorites ever. However, the fact that the game had to be rushed hurts my soul, since if it wasn't for these repeat missions, I actually would have given the game a 10 out of 10, which is really rare for me. I only gave 2 games a true 10 out of 10 rating, and those 2 games are Silent Hill 2 and Bloodborne. However, the game is still one of my favorites despite its issues, because the gameplay of the game was just so much fun and unique, and that is why I literally recommend this game to anybody. Another game that came out was Batman Arkham Knight, and it perfected the gameplay loop of the past Arkham games, mixing things up by giving you more side missions, more moves to unlock, more Riddler trophies, and there were also more enemy types you had to keep track of. I personally really love the Batman Arkham Knight. It's probably my favorite in the Arkham series, and I just loved playing through it. The Batmobile also got introduced, and a lot of people hated it, but I personally loved it. I personally enjoy the Batmobile combat, and I love how it's used most of the time. And the PS4 graphics mixed in with the beautiful art direction of this game made it one of the best looking video games, and it still looks better than a lot of modern games, since it didn't just heavily rely on Unreal Engine 5 assets, and the environment felt actually alive. And then there is Witcher 3: The Wild Hunt, one of the best games ever made. The game had a deep storytelling with a mature branching narrative with meaningful choices and consequences, and the world is shaped by players' decisions. The game also had a rich open world, which was expansive and beautifully created. It was a world that felt alive, with diverse environments, hidden secrets, and detailed lore. All of the characters were well written. Geralt, Yennefer, Ciri, and Dandelion were all complex characters with well-developed backstories, and the quests were top tier. They had sometimes even more depth and relevance than the main quests, and one of the best examples of this is the Bloody Baron questline. The graphics are still stunning to this very day, the art style is distinctive, and the powerful soundtrack created an immersive atmosphere. Or at least this is what ChatGPT told me, since I've never actually beaten this game. I've played it for a little bit, I've beaten a couple of quest lines on my brother's account, but that's about it. This game has been stuck in my backlog for the past 3 years, and I still haven't beaten it. I've literally went through the entirety of the Devil May Cry series. I've beaten every Red Dead game after a long time. However, my time with Witcher 3 always somehow gets delayed. I promise I will play it someday. I literally have the game in my PlayStation library, except that for some reason every time I try to play it, some divine intervention makes me not play it. I will play the game and I will probably review it, and I really do hope it is as good as people say. I mean, I can easily see why this game won Game of the Year, but right now I got too many games I need to play before it. There were also a lot of other hits in 2015, like Rise of the Tomb Raider, which was, a pretty good game. Dying Light came out, and it was a cool zombies game that was somehow praised, even after the zombies genre has been bloated and over-exaggerated. Life is Strange existed, and Until Dawn was a Supermassive Games game that wasn't a complete dumpster fire piece of shit like everything else they released. And it wasn't just the AAA scene in 2015 that was stacked with good games. Indie games were also amazing this year. I mean, we got Undertale, Rocket League, Ori and the Blind Forest, and Hotline Miami 2, which is a sequel to the amazing first game that I really liked. And the indie games were much more creative than a lot of indie games we get nowadays. Now every single indie game has to be either some kind of roguelike or a Hollow Knight clone. And I know it's not always the case, but a lot of indie games that come out now end up being just generic, and I don't have a reason to care for them. There are still some great indie games that come out nowadays, like Signalis. However, those types of indie games are quite rare to find these days. The multiplayer scene in 2015 was also really good. I mean, after 2 years of shit COD titles, we finally got a good game, and of course it was made by the GOATs, Treyarch. We got a very fun multiplayer mode which introduced specialists, and the specialists were all very fun to use, especially mixed with the advanced movement. And my favorites were the Annihilator and Tempest, but the Scythe was also broken as shit and it was kind of fun to use. The game also removed kill streaks, and there was no more camping and only trying to get kills because they were replaced by score streaks, and score streaks let you use special abilities even if you die because they look at your score, not your kills. Zombies was also the best in Black Ops 3 with the best quests and amazing maps. I mean, Shadows of Evil is still an absolute masterpiece, and the wonder weapons in this zombies mode were also amazing. The game also introduced gobblegums which were absolutely pay to win, but as a solo player I don't really use them. I use only the basic ones like Anywhere But Here. And another multiplayer game that came out this year was Rainbow Six Siege, and it's still to this day Ubisoft's best game. It's a tactical shooter with no respawns, and positioning matters the most. And there is a reason the game is still big today, because its gameplay loop is just so fun. This game is literally carrying Ubisoft right now, and without it I'm 100% certain that Ubisoft would have died a long time ago. In a time where every single game studio is afraid to take risks and experiment with new ideas, it's refreshing to look back on truly the last year before every game started feeling the exact same. Not that all modern games are bad, but a lot of them are boring and they don't interest me, as they are just trying to copy the success of others. 2015 not only gave us some amazing games, but it also showed us the importance of art direction. You don't need Unreal Engine 5 to look good. It was also the year where some AAA studios had their last hurrah before falling apart and releasing slop. One of the biggest examples of this was Rocksteady. They went from Batman Arkham Knight to Suicide Squad Killed the Justice League, a game which is a perfect example of following modern trends. The game actually had every single modern gaming sin in it. Always online, shitty skins, woke as fuck, battle passes. Suicide Squad Killed the Justice League is truly everything that's wrong with modern gaming. And Konami published Metal Gear Solid 5, fired Kojima, and now Konami is fully relying on nostalgia with their Metal Gear and Silent Hill remakes, since they don't actually want to make any new IPs. And while Kojima tried to be creative with Death Stranding, he forgot that the game's gameplay has to be fun and not just different from others. Overall, I think that 2015 is truly a special year in gaming, and it will always have a special place in my heart. Hello again guys, thank you so much for watching today's video. If you enjoyed it, make sure to leave a like, and please comment your opinions on what the best year in gaming actually was. If you want to see more of my content, you can always subscribe, and I'll see you guys in the next video. Peace. You never see it coming.